Hey YouTube, coming at you here with a video, and if you've read the description, I'm sure you can tell that it's about how to destroy an engine. This is a brand new fuel injected Kohler 27 horse engine I just installed today. It's running great. The engine that came out was about 10 years old. This place is a mess. I got to get cleaned up, but this motor has that's not varnish on that. That's sticky, something sticky, and I'll show you what it is. And someone got this one too. This is our one of our other walkers. Little carbureted guy. It acted like it was seizing, but I could still turn it with a lot of force. And man, I can't even believe this happened. But I'll show you the oil filter. This is the oil filter out of that carbureted machine. And that's sugar. That's what happens when you pour sugar in a crankcase. This isn't sugar in the fuel. That's sugar. When it's hot, you can actually grab it and it'll stretch. So someone oiled or sugared our crankcases, and on two machines that we know of. And the bummer is, all my years of turning the wrench, I've never had a problem like that. And we had a starter go out, what we thought was just a starter. So I put a starter in this machine. It's got a brand new starter. And I sent it back out. It was running. Everything worked. I sent it back out, and it comes back a half day later, and this kept happening over and over. And I checked the oil and I didn't see any, it was reading on the dipstick. And then one day, after it'd been running for a couple hours, we pulled the dipstick, and I wish I hadn't cleaned them because you guys could see, but this dipstick was coated with this the same thing that's basically all over that oil filter, sticky. And I knew right then, I said, this is something's fucked up. So, and then I pull this is all sticky, gooey shit all over these push rods. And I knew right away. I said to my boss, I said, would someone sabotage you? And he said no, he didn't believe that, that would ever happen. And who would? I mean, this is so crazy. And sure as shit, two mowers full of sugar. So we got about $3,000 into the fuel injected one, and that's just parts. And then this guy here is going to be about $2,000, and we got to do the replacement on it too. Obviously it's done. Super sad. These mowers are old, and they were, that one, the fuel injected one I was changed out, is about 10 years old, but it was still a good running mower. We take good care of stuff, and someone fucked us. And I just want to mention, if you gotta fuck with somebody's stuff, I mean, if you're not man enough to go look somebody in the eye and tell them, hey, you're a piece of shit, or whatever your thing is, you're just a pussy, in my opinion. And that's just the definition of a pussy. If you're fucking with somebody's car or somebody's mower or whatever it is, and this is your game because you're not man enough to just go confront somebody or whatever, this is the most chicken shit thing I think I've ever seen in my life. And we're doing spring cleanups, and we're behind, and this set me back 2 weeks. I did the swap in a day on the fuel injected one, which for you guys that are walker guys, they say it needs a new harness, which I thought was no big deal, a drop-in plug-and-play situation. It moves the you know, the ECU all into this module here. But that wasn't the only thing. I mean, we ended up having to replumb the entire fuel system because it's got a new fuel pump, so that took extra time. And you know, the old pump in the instructions, they don't even say to remove it, so it's still down there. I need to take it out. And then we had to build a new piece of all thread bracket for this because, or a bolt, I guess, but this wasn't fitting. It's not a plug and play deal. So if you're planning on replacing a motor, I would count for a day, probably a full day. But this is just, I've never seen anything like it. I've talked to a lot of my mechanic buddies, and they've never seen anything like it either. I mean, you hear of people doing this, putting sugar in gas and stuff like that, which doesn't do anything. I mean, it plugs a filter up, and you might get some carbon buildup on the top of the piston, but yeah, pouring it directly in the crankcase will absolutely fuck it up. And it's just, you know, my boss is a nice person, and he's a person that's given a lot, and we don't know who did it. We don't know if it's an ex-employee. We don't know if it's people that are pissed off because we're out working during the virus. We don't know, and we will probably never know. But if you're the guy that did this to us, you're a little chicken shit, and grow a set of balls, because you know, this is just the most cowardly thing I think you could possibly do. And it's just sad because you know, as much as you screwed my boss, I mean, this is going to be an insurance claim, and you know, he's out some money, but not a lot. But my labor and my time and my headaches and dealing with this shit, and of course, you know, I've learned, I mean, I never in my life thought I'd see anything like this, so you don't think about it, you know. I'm thinking fuel, I'm thinking air, I'm going to the easy stuff first, replacing starters. You know, I put a new starter in, this thing fires right up and runs, send it out, and it just stops. And you know, they shut the motor off. It got hot, and you know, that sugar, I'm sure, is all over the bearings, and you know, it's just coated in there. I'm sure I don't even want to look down a cylinder. I don't even want to imagine what they look like, but you know, it was acting like it was seized, and I thought, man, maybe the engine just seized up. And you know, I drained the oil. The oil, weirdly, I mean, it didn't look weird. I mean, it didn't. There was no indication from the oil that it was sugared. And then when I pulled that filter off, it had a bunch of granular shit all over it. Let me see if I can pull this chunk off real quick. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And I knew when I looked at that dipstick, and then I looked at this filter. Prior to looking at the filter, when I looked at that dipstick, I had a feeling. And then one of the shop dogs was in here trying to drink this oil, which is telling that there's probably something sweet in there. So it's definitely some kind of, I mean, it's some kind of sugar. They may have used syrup for all we know. You know, who knows? But just a really sickening thing, and it's so disturbing. And I just I'm a little mind blown at the moment that we experience this problem. So anyway, I guess that's some information for you guys out there that are mechanics and may suspect something like that. I've talked to 10 guys and no one's ever seen this before. So I don't know. It's just the wildest thing ever. Look at this filter. I'll pull it off this napkin. Yeah, you can see where it's kind of gooey. That's sugar. It smells really sweet. It smells like burned sugar. So but you can see down in this filter. Yep. Ruined it. Done for. So yeah, it's sad, you know. 2 starters and you know, doing everything we can to try to keep this show running. You know, and you're trying to screw a guy, and I guess the thing to remember about a small business is that the business owner gets paid last, you know, and that's the guy that's got to take the brunt of it, and I think he was obviously the target. So super sad, but anyway, new motor, runs good. That was not as easy a job as I thought. I pretty much thought it'd be a drop-in situation. I think this one's going to be easier, this carbureted one. So, frustrating to say the least. But anyway, guys, I guess beware. And if you ever see anything weird, or if you've ever seen anything like it before, leave a comment. Thanks for watching.